I'm sitting in the middle of a circle of doctors and specialists that are looking at me like a medical mystery, like a lab rat on display, and my heart is pounding in my chest because my future depends on their diagnosis. And while they are arguing and speaking to each other as if I have no ears to hear or feelings to feel or thoughts to think, they throw around diagnoses like she's bipolar, or she's displaying very harmful behaviors, she tried to commit suicide, and the best one, we don't really know who she is because she has so many personalities. And so while I sat there, my heart in my mouth, my thoughts in the sky, my body present, and me, the being, somewhere else, somewhere more comfortable, somewhere that was safe. They decided my fate that day in a governmental hospital, somewhere in the hills outside of Pietermaritzburg. And I got to go off shuffling nonetheless, medicated with SSRIs to numb me out even more and remind me to keep my place, that I began to discover who I was and what had led me to be there in the first place, which is a whole another story. There's nothing worse than having your identity taken away from you. Nothing that makes you feel more powerless than being a broken heap of beingness, lying on a bed that squeaked, that springs were broke, with a whole lot of other people that were there for their own reasons and their own stories. And that was the day that everything changed for me, because I knew that I wasn't bipolar. I knew that I was not unstable. I just knew that I had broken open into a million tiny little pieces because I had suffered a huge loss. I had gone through so much leading up to that day that I checked in to that mental hospital, broken and alone and confused and wondering how would I ever come back from that place of such a huge amount of shame and feelings of betrayal. But that is for a whole another day, because this is the story that has led me up to being here, being able to openly share my story of everything that I have known and everything that I have become. And more so that I began to realize that day that my body changed my mind. And when I started to change my body, I was able to change my mind. And that is so powerful. When I started to explore, and let me tell you, it took me a long time. It took me a long time to get to this place where I can stand here and have you hear my story. Not just the pieces that were censored or muted down or quietened to make it more comfortable, but parts of the real story of why I do the work that I do today in reminding and empowering other women to find their voices, know what they stand for, and what they came here to be. Because 15 years ago, broken, lying in a snot, tear-drenched mattress that had spent... Okay, let me try again. My body changed my mind, and my mind changed my body. And when I left that hospital that day, when they sent me off on medication and told me to find my way again in that big bad world, I was terrified. I was terrified of how would I ever start again. Everything that I had built, everything that I had stood for, everything that I had dreamed into being was gone. I had lost my home, I had lost my marriage, I had lost everything. And the one thing that I hadn't lost was my will to either live or to die. And I chose to live that day. And even though it took me a year of lying like a sad sack of potatoes on my mother's couch in a retirement village where all around me were old people that had given up on their dreams and were waiting to die, I was able to just press pause and to take as long as it took. And that is the power of having support, the power of having people. Okay. That day when I left the mental hospital,